Montana completely ruined my perfect hiking trip in the best possible way. What I learned, the gems, the takeaways, I'm gonna share with you along the way. I am here at Glacier National Park. How cool is that? What I planned to do was to hike Doris Mountain and take part in an amateur radio activity called Summits on the Air, where I summit the mountain and set up a portable radio station to make contacts all over the world and in an attempt to activate the park and get points. I planned the perfect hike. My itinerary was good, my gear choice was spot on for the possible conditions and activities. I even talked to the locals about road and trail conditions on the morning of my ascent, and everything seemed to be great. I began the drive up the mountain. I made it about 7/8 of the way to the trailhead, and there was a snow slide covering the road. If I would have had a rental vehicle that had any kind of ground clearance, I might have tried to go through it, but I had a Subaru, which was, a Subaru. So takeaway number one is get an appropriate vehicle for the trail conditions or for the local conditions that you're going to. Needless to say, I was frustrated, but I still had a plan B to fall back on. So I headed to Apgar Lookout in Glacier National Park, with the plan to hike to the summit and set up a station and activate the park with Parks on the Air. It's another amateur radio activity. Starting the Apgar Lookout Trail here in Montana, Glacier National Park. Hiking reviews on some pretty reputable websites gave me an average time that was pretty reasonable to complete this and still give me margin in my day. But the problem was it took me so much longer to hike that trail that day. No two hikes of the same trail are ever the same, are they? It was a great reminder of how a place as wild as this makes its own rules, and you have to be willing and able to adapt when needed. It was a tough hike up. There was a lot of snow, and the last mile, it was pretty deep. Lots of snow to get through, but definitely worth the view. I wouldn't say that this is a moderate trail, not in early May. I'd say this is difficult. And when I reached the summit, I realized I wouldn't have enough time to set up my radio station and try to activate the park. And again, I had a moment where I felt like I had failed somehow, and that because this wasn't going as planned, that in some way, this was less than amazing. I began to think about how I should have stayed in the valley and just activated the park from there. But that wouldn't have been the experience that I was hoping to have that day. It would have been just checking a box, and it wouldn't have given me the experience that I was about to have. A hiker came to the summit next, wearing a sleeveless shirt, huge cowboy hat, and mentioned that there was a live webcam behind me that I could see on the website. Did I mention he was wearing shorts too? He then proceeded to talk about the tough hike up, all while relieving himself in the snow right next to me. Amazing to think that he was observant enough to notice the live camera behind me, but not enough to realize that he just made yellow snow for the whole world to see. I was suddenly very aware of myself and how silly it was that I was standing on the mountain with this insane view, and yet I was all mopey about my plans falling apart. So I pulled out my phone, I went to the live camera webpage and spent several minutes waving to myself in the live camera feed like a little kid. It totally changed my perspective, and that got me thinking about how ephemeral the experience of hiking can be. How unique my experience was at this particular time of day on this trail, and how everything around me kept changing by the minute. Someone I ran into on the way up said, "If you've hiked a trail here once, it will not be the same when hiked again." Well played, Montana. Well played. For the rest of the hike, I decided I was going to be more helpful. I ran into a wide range of experience levels. One couple made it to the summit next, and I asked them if they needed anything. I offered them a better vantage point from which to see the lake from. "Just to the right of that yellow snow," I told them. On the way down, another couple I passed, clearly in distress, not prepared for the trip at all, totally dejected. I could tell his wife was ready to lose it, and that he wanted to brute force it to the top, but was also looking for permission to bail on their death march. I told them how long it took me to reach the summit and what the trail conditions were and what to expect. That the temps were rising and the melt was starting to overcome the trail drainage. Wet feet would be inevitable. But then I mentioned that if they wanted to get some really great views, they could press on for a short while before turning back. and they could see the valley and the mountains from halfway up right before the trail starts to get truly ugly. So I'm curious, what's your go-to trail conversation? Do you talk to anybody when you pass them? Do you just keep to yourself? Let me know in the comments below what you do. Consider giving the people you pass some encouragement and key intel on trail conditions. Time elapsed, how many groups remain at the summit. That's a piece of information that can be so helpful from a situational awareness perspective as well as a safety thing. My perfect day trip didn't go as planned, and I'm so glad it didn't, because if it weren't for that snow slide, I wouldn't have had this view. Met those people, put my feet in a glacial stream, learned so many things about myself and this incredible state, or made this video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later.